Welcome to this week's episode of Pondering Play and Therapy with me, Philippa, and this week my guest is Marneta Viegas, and she is the founder of Relax Kids, which she started 25 years ago, and this is the UK's first and now leading company to offer children's relaxation and mental health tools. You've written 20 books, which is, an amazing achievement. But actually, Monetta, you started as a children's entertainer and a clown. I'm not sure clowns are relaxing. They're certainly not relaxing for me. So tell me about that. So welcome to the podcast. It's really
Thank
nice to have
you.
you here.
Wonderful. Well, yeah, clowns not always relaxing, but they are playful,
They
hence
definitely play.
being here. So I have a performing arts background, music, drama, dance, and after I left college, uni, it is now, I I started a clowning business. So using all the things that I'd learned from university, and that was my first business. I've never had a job in my whole life, and
Wow.
I just loved entertaining children at parties, and it was great fun, playing games, having a joyful time. But over those years, in the 90s, I noticed a change in children's behavior, in the inability to sit still, listen, concentrate. I have a meditation background. I learnt when I was 12, and I felt meditation was the answer for these children. And so the way that I did my form of clowning, it wasn't scary. I actually didn't wear towards maybe for the first year I wore the white makeup. And then, well, one, it was such hard work to keep doing every time. And and two, it was quite scary. So I just adapted everything, and I was more playful, I was more creative, I was more imaginative. So I would bring children down into like a nice calming storytelling space rather than whipping up their
Mm.
attention, which so that's always been the way that I've worked.
Why did you decide coming out of performing arts college? You're in the south of England, aren't that's where
Yes,
you
I was
are?
in London. Yeah.
Um and and so what when you came out of college, why clowns? You know what I mean? Like it's not a usual route. We've experienced, I've interviewed a few performing arts people who've gone on to drama and plays, and I interviewed a great performer and actor and drama Dirk, I think she called herself. So there's those very usual routes, or I suppose things you would accept. Clowning is not one that you would think, oh, I'm going to go into that now. So why?
Well, this is the early 90s. I really wanted to be a before that, I wanted to be an opera singer. But I wasn't going to do that. My voice wasn't quite strong enough for opera singing. Then I wanted to be a TV presenter, but I wasn't the right look. It was it was the time of not Fern Britain, sorry, the lovely,
Cotton.
that's the one. Fern
Very
Cotter,
bold.
Denise Van Outen, they were the entertaining, they
Mm.
were. And so I just thought, I'm not going for any more auditions and just like for more rejection.
Oh
And
gosh.
I loved Marcel Marceau. I loved clowning, but miming. I got into doing a lot of mime on almost like a street corner type thing, and it naturally happened, and I just started as an experiment, and it went so well, and I ended up working in London, central London, doing a lot of work for all the celebrities.
Mm.
So
And is it easy to be a clown and do miming? I imagine it's
it's
because we see them, don't they? I imagine it takes a vast amount of
it's
skill to do
it's
that.
very, very difficult. I went to 3 mime schools, and the level of control that is needed to do it properly. So the real traditional Marcel Marceau type mime, the control of the muscles to do all that pull push thing. That's become that's the stylized mime, the traditional mime, but still it takes a lot of work.
I
And then
didn't even I didn't even know there was mime schools.
yes, yeah, there are three. Well, there's more actually, but then I went to a French mime school that was in the UK for a year, and I mean, it was proper. I was no good at it, but the guys there, their bodies were like Michelangelo's sculptures, like literally the way, and they could articulate different parts of their body. It was just divine to watch. It really was, especially when they did. I used to love it when, it sounds a bit weird, but I used to love it when they would do little performances and just wear a piece of material around their parts, and just seeing the muscles and the way they were moving. It was amazing. I could not do it, but I can still do a little bit now, but not to the level that they did. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So did you mime then, like we see in Covent Garden and stuff
Um,
like that, Manchester? Is that what you did?
yeah, I did a little bit of that. Not I don't think I did Covent Garden. I remember getting some jobs in shopping centres, and I remember going to Guernsey, Jersey, on the street, in the street doing that. I didn't enjoy it that much, I'll be honest with you. Um, But yes, I did that. And then I
Wow.
also started doing solo mime performances a little bit, with the white paint, and just creating. I love creating stories of stories of what happens in silence. And I realized recently that I absolutely am so drawn. A friend said to me, "You've always been drawn to silence, haven't you? All your work is all about either mime, and then it became meditation, which was, that's again silence. And a lot of the inspiration I get is through symbols. So say for example, if I need an idea, like my brain, I'll be scanning the room, and I see something, whether it's a color, a shape, something, and a whole story and a whole idea will just come from one little thing. And that's just the way that my brain works. So
That's fantastic.
alongside the miming and entertaining, so this is throughout the 90s, I also worked on creating charity pantomimes every year. Took about 3 months out of my time, full time, as well as doing the clowning and a bit of training. And I would write it, direct it, do the costumes, and there'd be about 100 children and people in it. And then I think it was seen by about 5,000 children.
Wow, that's and so you would do it, you were doing the miming, you'd done a little bit of clown, you were doing some clowning. I am interested a little bit in about what that was like, especially with the rich and famous. But let's do we'll come back to that. So and then you were writing a pantomime, so the
Yeah.
Christmas one that we put on, like the Peter Pan or the Robin Hood or I mean that's a lot of work, especially quite young,
Yeah,
Monette. That
yeah,
was a
yeah. I just got on and did a lot of solo performances for charity, and then the pantomimes. And I think I was just having fun. And my clowning business was giving me enough income to survive. I didn't have a lot, I just had a small rent then, because I think I was sharing to start with, and then it slowly goes up and up, of course, when you move on your own.
yeah.
And it was a very, we were very simple then. We didn't have extravagant things
Mm.
that we have grown accustomed to having in our latter years. Yeah, so it was very doable, and I just slowly built my business. But yeah, it was full on. It was full on, because I remember I was going to college, studying whichever school it was. I had a Michael Jackson grant. That's what got me into it. Once I left uni, I had a Michael Jackson grant, and I thought, "Oh, what should I do with this? I'm going to do mime." And then I went on to another mime school, then another one, and alongside having the entertaining business. Yeah.
Wow. And then, so when you were doing the clown, just tell me a little bit about that was like, because that's also what led you into more of the meditation, isn't it? Because then you started to notice. But what was it like? Did they have big, extravagant parties, or
Oh, yes.
what was it like?
Oh, my good. Well, I mean, I remember one of the worst parties I did was it was we were sent off to this place in the country, I think, and it was for a 1-year-old. No, 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 it was for a 2.5, 3, 2, 2. It was only 2. They had a fun fair, they had donkeys, they had candy floss machine, they had everything. And I was there with some toddlers and I had to entertain. There was a Mickey Mouse, that's it, and a Pluto, or a few of these characters, big characters. And it didn't go well because, well, one, they're toddlers, and
Hmm.
toddlers just, I can control toddlers, but not when there's Mickey Mouse and Pluto and Candy Floss and all this. And then I had a complaint and I just thought, well, what am I meant to do? So that was probably one of the most extravagant parties I think I went to. I did a lot of celebrity parties for newsreaders, very famous musicians, some like idols, and yeah, newsreaders and some singers. Yeah, so it was and actresses too.
Mm. It is quite a different. I was a nanny in London just for a short period of time for some very wealthy family. Well, for one wealthy family, and I remember a birthday party that I was taking there. They'd got 3 children, all of quite close in age, and I remember taking them to some of these parties, and the sandwiches were like color coordinated. There was like an ice sculpture, and they were toddlers. They didn't care that this was a swan or a, and it was my, I'd come from like the north of England where we'd we'd had the miners' strike, and we were all this sort of stuff into this world of yeah, opulence.
Excess.
Really,
Yeah.
it was a very different. Oh, and I didn't stay very long, and yes, they had lots of money. I mean, we can discuss those, but it's a very different lifestyle, isn't it? And being a clown in there must be quite, fascinating.
It was
And
amazing. Yeah. And I was always amazed actually how sometimes people would let me into their bedroom to get changed because I often, to start with, I didn't have a car. This is yeah, I didn't have a car, so I was on tubes and I'd arrive with my stuff and I'd say, "Could I get changed, please?" And and there'd be money on the table, and I was just felt so, well, one, grateful, and that I was just so honest to myself that
Mhm.
I would
Mhm.
never even think, but also just so amazed that complete stranger that these people would put their stuff in the hands of a complete
Yeah,
stranger.
yeah,
I was
that's a
always amazed.
privilege, isn't it?
What I felt, that's the word. I felt so privileged. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, and what was amazing was I was asked to come back a lot. And even when I stopped in 2004, I moved out of London and came to Oxford, and that's when I really properly started to relax kids. And even then, I had people calling back saying, "Please, can you come? I've had another child," and I said, "No, I have to draw a line." Yeah, and I have met people 20 years later who I was an entertainer for, and they
Oh,
still remember, and they said it was the best party. Yeah, yeah.
oh, and that's
But
so nice. That joy that you bring to people.
it was a joy. But the key thing that I did, and yes, it was play, but I did not whip children up into like a frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
A successful party for me was when I had them eating out of my hand. Their minds, their imaginations were on fire. They were excited, but in a quiet way. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like more storytelling, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
and that's how I, my first party actually was an absolute failure. It was awful because I tried to be a clown and I
Yeah.
tried to be silly and I tried to do the magic and I realized I couldn't do it. So I was on the tube to the next one, like panicking, thinking, what am I going to do? And this idea came into my head of creating a story. So use all the tricks that you've got and turn them into a story. So I quickly wrote it down, and that one story became almost the same story with variation for the whole of my, I think, 13 years of clowning. Yeah,
Wow.
maybe just
And
under.
and you began to notice a change in children, did you, when you were doing that, which led you on to the
Yes,
next stage? So what were you noticing?
just their inability to sit still, listen, concentrate. And there was one particular party with a group of boys. They had just come from school, and I had only seen them on the Saturday. This was the Wednesday. So they'd already seen me, they'd already seen the show. and and they were very full of bravado, and they when children are together all day and then they want to let off steam at the end of the day, and just they also almost don't care. Whereas when they come on on a Saturday, they're a little bit more subdued because they're coming from their own homes. They're excited, but that was
Mm-mm.
my experience. And so it was so hard. And so I just went, okay, everyone, please lie down on the floor. And I did a visualization with them. And that was the beginning. I saw all this, and the parents were like, that was amazing. And so I started to do that more. And then I had the idea to write all the meditations, sorry, all the fairy stories, to turn them into meditations. So that
Okay.
they would imagine they were Sleeping Beauty lying on a bed, or Peter Pan flying, Little Mermaid swimming. And I turned every fairy story, apart from Little Red Riding Hood, into a meditation. And that became my first book. And it grew from there.
Okay. So you left being a clown and you moved out to Oxford, and then so how did you then do? Because you can have great ideas, you can do that, but actually what happened then?
Well, it was from that book, the Aladdin's Magic Carpet. There's definitely a crossover. So the book I wrote in 1999, and it was sat in a cupboard or a drawer or something for a good few years. I think it was 2001. 2001 stroke 2, that my friend said, let's type them up because it was just handwritten. We'll type them up. And then I sent it off to a publisher. So
Okay.
2003, the publisher published two books, the first two books. And that was, and I also turned them into audios. So I turned them into MP3s. So in 2003, I had two books and I think three or five MP3s in my flat in London, filling up the bedroom, boxes and boxes and boxes. And I just had to slow, and I was still entertaining at the time because that was bringing in me in income. I didn't have any money coming in from Relaxed Kids. So there was definitely a crossover. It wasn't a, right, no more children's entertaining, now we're going to do this new business. It was a natural crossover because it was, I was learning things that I picked up from the entertaining. And then I started running classes in my home, and I created this 7-step system to teaching children to relax: move, play, stretch, feel, breathe, believe, relax. And they do 7 different activities. And by the end, they lie down on the floor. And I had some children to my flat and started experimenting with these ideas. And then it just grew and grew and grew from there. Started classes in schools and community centres. I had some money, some funding from the King's Fund Millennium Award. So that would have been around 2000, 2001, to start these classes in area of deprivation for mental health. Even though there was just nothing, and I researched, I could not find anything apart from yoga. There was yoga for children, but yoga then was, it was more as a physical activity. It's very now, well, in the mid 2000s, yoga teachers started using my books.
Oh, okay.
Classes, yeah. And then so they started using the relaxation or the meditations for the relaxation bit, and started using the affirmations. Yeah.
Okay. So can you tell me a bit more then about the steps, the 7 steps?
Yes. So we
Yes.
start we work with children's natural energy system. So we start with movement, and they run around, and they move their bodies, get rid of all that extra energy. Then they play some social games, and then they stretch their muscles, then they massage, and then they do some breathing, then affirmations just to help them feel safe and secure, and then they're ready to lie down on the floor. Now, if we were to say to a group of quite highly energetic children, could you lie down on the floor and relax, they find it difficult. But going through these 7 steps, it works. Now, think I can talk about this now a little bit more. This has always been something I've kept a little bit in the closet, jokingly in a way, but now the way that the world is, we're so much more open. And the 7 steps follow the 7 chakras of the body.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not know this when I created these 7 steps. I did not even know about the 7 chakras, even though I have practiced meditation. It was of the meditation I practiced was not of the way you be doing
Yeah.
chakras. And it was only in 2003 th yeah, yeah, it was 2003, and I was in Matalan, and I remember the moment buying this book or seeing this book on the thing, and it was a book on chakras, and I looked at it and I thought, "Oh, that's interesting." I bought it, and then I was flying, I was going somewhere, and when your mind is just sort of like you're up in the air and you're just thinking, and I thought, "Oh my goodness, the Relaxed Kids 7 Steps follows the chakras." And then I realized, it dawned on me, that's the reason why it works, because you're starting from grounding, you're moving up into the body and then up into the mind. Yeah, that's why it
Yeah.
works. Yeah.
So can you just for people who maybe don't know what chakras are, can you just
Yes.
explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I don't know that much about it, but it does come from an ancient Eastern practice. The idea that we have 7 energy points in our body, and it's almost like yeah, 7 energy points. So the base one, which is where in the area where we sit in the perineum, is red, and it's all about being grounded, and it's really important to feel grounded. So if you're feeling quite ungrounded and a bit airy-fairy, it's good to think of the color red, or wear red socks, or wear red trousers.
A jumper, which is what I've got on
Yeah,
today.
absolutely. Perfect to get yourself feeling grounded. And then you've got orange, which is in the sacral area. It's the sacral chakra, which is, for adults, it's the sexual chakra. But for children, for what I'd created was play, which is creativity. And creativity, if you think about it, sexuality and creativity is actually the same thing, 'cause it's creating, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So, and for children, it's all about play and creativity. Then we move up to the solar plexus, which is above the stomach in the center of the body, which is yellow, and it's like a big yellow sun. And this is about personal power and balance, feeling stable and in control. And when someone says something to you, and you think, "Oh gosh, it really sort of it felt like you've been kicked in the stomach."
Mm-hmm.
That's how the chakras work. It's almost like it's an emotional but a physical thing. Then, of course, we've got the heart chakra, which is for massage, which is green, and this is about giving, sharing, that makes sense. Then you've got the throat chakra, which is a light blue, which we do our breathing, and this is an area of peace, but also communication. Sometimes, you can get a lot of not when you've got a cold, that's different. But you know, when you can get a lump in your throat or you coughing a lot, people say that it's because we there's something we need to say, but we need to
Mm.
speak out. We need to find our truth. And then we've got the affirmations here in the third eye, which is like an indigo color. And then finally, visualizations up in the crown chakra. So you can just see how it works.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. So as an adult, you might go for Reiki and have they sometimes put crystals on
Yes,
you, don't they? And try and
absolutely.
help to do that. But for children, you've created this kind of concept that actually helps them to move through them in a
Yeah.
way that fits for where they are as children.
Absolutely. But the key thing is, and I have not really mentioned chakras because it was an add on, and I don't want to put anybody off who may feel, oh gosh, this is not because it isn't religious. It's not a religious
No.
thing. It's just I just think, okay, move, play, stretch, breathe, breathe, believe, relax. Those are the 7 steps. It
Mm.
just happens to follow
Yeah.
the chakra system.
But it sounds like it's
It's
really about connecting to a child's body,
absolutely,
attuning to where they are in that moment, and
yes.
then helping them to almost regulate their nervous system in some ways, which sometimes can be a little bit fizzy or a little bit kind
Oh,
of energetic. And actually, what you're helping them to do is relax into that and be in the moment, because often that's really hard, isn't it, to be in the moment?
yes, absolutely. That is spot on. Exactly the whole purpose of Relaxed Kids to calm their nervous system. So, working with their natural energy system to help calm them down.
And you said you've got some stories. Would you be able to read a little bit of one just so listeners can maybe get an idea of how you've adapted them?
Yes. So, I've got my Aladdin's Magic Carpet book here, and I'll read The Princess and the Pea. So close your eyes, be very still, and imagine you are a princess who is lying on a bed made of 20 mattresses. The bed is so high that you have to climb a ladder to get on top. The mattresses are made of the softest duck and goose feathers. Each mattress is so colourful with its own unique and pretty design. You've brushed your teeth, combed your silky hair, and are now lying on your bed wearing your beautiful satin nightdress. You're lying down between the smoothest silky sheets. Relax on the softest bed in the world, smelling the wonderful aroma of freshly washed sheets and lavender soap. Enjoy the feeling of your body sinking into the soft, feathery mattresses. All of your muscles feel completely relaxed. Take in a deep breath, and as you breathe out, your muscles relax even more into the softness of the bed. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Feel yourself going deeper and deeper into relaxation. And as you breathe in, say to yourself, I relax. And as you breathe out, say to yourself, I relax. Now stay very still. Someone has put a tiny but very hard pea under the bottom mattress just to check if you are completely still and relaxed. Stay very, very still. Can you feel the tiny pea? Where has the pea been put? Where can you feel it? And now, when you're ready, wiggle your fingers and toes, have a big stretch, and open your eyes.
That's beautiful. I mean, I think even for adults,
Yes.
I could listen to you kind of read that out was very, yeah, a guide could go to sleep listening to that,
Yeah,
really.
and really people have. I've had reports back that in the days of CD players, and I really do wish people would use CD players and not MP3 players, more for the, having a mobile phone next to the child's head or an
Mm.
iPad is not a good idea. So CDs really are a good idea. But they would put the CD player in the hallway, so all it would go through all the bedrooms. And I
Yeah.
remember one mother said, "Oh, I am sick of the sound of your voice all night." She meant it in the nicest possible way, but the children would wake up and then they would go back to sleep. Just put it on a loop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess you can do that through your like Amazon or Google Play, your
Well, you
cards,
can,
can't
but
you?
my point is you need the Wi-Fi, and it is better for children not to have
Ah,
that Wi-Fi
Wi-Fi.
at
Yeah,
nighttime.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
we are in a different world
We
now.
definitely are. That's amazing. So you started this, you practiced it within your living room or your flat, and then how did it progress to being what it is now? Because I think when we spoke, you said this has reached 6 million children. I mean, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
So how did you go from your flat to 6 million children and 20 books?
I think what happened was, I mean, I have to say, I haven't advertised. I never had an advertising budget. So it has been, to start with, I did have this lovely lady who did some PR for me. And so she contacted all Daily Telegraph and all the magazines, and we had some really good features. And so that was great. And then the real turning point was when well, two things. When I started training. So 2005, yeah, February 2005, so that's 21 years ago to this almost day, that I realized that I couldn't fulfill the classes in Cornwall and Edinburgh. And so I thought, okay, I need to train other people. So
So can I just stop you?
yeah,
So you'd gone from your living room, and when you say classes, was it you were going into schools or you
yeah,
were setting up in community halls and people were
absolutely. Yeah.
I guess Sure Start was around then.
Yeah, Sure Start. I was in London, so there was Sure Start, Home Start, the Millennium Award. That sort of really kicked things off for me there because I was able to start running classes and not charge for them.
And those were free in
They were
areas
free
of
for
deprivation.
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And then I
So
started working with schools, and then because I couldn't, and then I created a website. Very, very, very simple. A friend did it for me. And this is like the first early website that was just pretty much a page. And people started contacting, and it was just me. And people started contacting me for classes in different places. And of course, I couldn't fulfill them.
mm,
So I started, I, it took me maybe a year so it was from 2004 to 2005 to create a manual of how I did it and writing everything down. And I used all the ideas that I picked up from my performing arts, my degree, my singing lessons, breathing exercises, and I put it all together to create this manual. And I did my first training, as I said, in February 2005 at the King's Fund, where I because I won this Millennium Award, and it was a really nice building and they did sandwiches and everything. I thought, oh, this would be a really nice place to do the first training. And I think the first few trainings were there, and I had five people. Five people came. One actually came, Donna, I remember, we're still in contact now. She she came from buying this book, seeing the book in her local shop, and then at the back it said she went on the website, and I think it must have said, yeah, she went straight on the website, saw there was training, and that was it. She knew she had to do it. Yeah, and it just grew from there. And then the classes started developing in different areas, and then people told people, and that's just how. And then the other turning point was going on Dragon's Den. So
Okay.
2000,
Oh, you've been
yes,
on Dragon's Den.
yes,
Well, I didn't know that. So what happened
yeah.
there?
Oh, it was awful, absolutely
Oh.
awful. Yeah, I did not want to do it. I remember because 2005 was the second series, and I remember watching the first series and thinking, "Wow, that is horrible." I would never, because they were tough then. They were much nastier then. They've got it down to and they're also not social. They weren't social enter, they weren't socially aware. It was
Yeah.
all about the money. Now they see social businesses like Relax Kids that want to make a difference. And in fact, all businesses are pretty much social businesses now, whereas
Yeah.
it wasn't like that before. And they just laughed. Peter Jones, you can watch it on YouTube, it's very funny. Peter Jones said, "Oh, I'm going
Doesn't
to tell you
sound
now."
funny.
Well, yeah, it's in retrospect. He said, "I'm going to say now, I'm not going to invest because I feel you're hypnotizing me. And any minute now, I'm going to invest." And they didn't. They weren't interested. I did say I didn't set Relax Kids up to make lots of money. It was to for a social, you know, reason, and they couldn't get that. So, but the next morning, my goodness, how many sales? Like I remember walking into the office. I had won an office free for a year as Oxford's best new business, and
Wow.
my class, and and she and I looked up at the girl, and she went, "Oh my goodness!" She was drowning in orders because, and people had said they were screaming at the screen, going, "This is just what we need. This is what we need." So I had parents, teachers, community leaders buying the books, and then some going, "Yeah, I want to train in this," and that's
Wow.
yeah.
So when was that? What year was that?
That was December the 6th, 2005. I
Oh
remember
gosh, so really in quite a short period of time, you kind of went from your living room, you won, and I guess getting those awards and getting those grants, that's a lot of work, isn't it? You don't just happen to come along on them. They
well,
take time.
well, you know what?
Oh, okay.
I will beg to differ. Yes, 100% grants, if you have to fill them in, a nightmare. Somehow in those early days, it everything just fell naturally into place. So
Mm.
I think I just filled in this thing and then forgot about it, and then I won it. And then I remember moving to Oxford and then hearing about this office that was free for the year, and I thought, "Oh, that's perfect." Because what had happened in my move, I couldn't take all the CDs into my new place. So I took on a fulfillment company. Now that fulfillment company, so they stored all my CDs in a warehouse, and I paid them a little bit each time they sent one out. And it wasn't loads then, but they went under.
Oh
And
gosh.
she called me, bless her, and she said, "Look, we've just gone under. You've got like hours to come and collect your stuff. Otherwise, it will get seized with." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And my friend we went together because their CDs were with them. And so I just sort of filled my kitchen. And then my elderly neighbor came in, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness." And my elderly neighbor came in like the next day or however many days, and he said, "Oh gosh, it looks like chaos in here." And I just burst into tears. I said, "I know it is, it's awful." And he said, "Don't worry." And he stored them in one of their spare rooms in the house, which was amazing for a good while. And then I saw this Oxford business to win an office, beautiful, brand new office in a office suite. And I just did the vision board, manifesting, that is my office. I'm going to win it. And I won it. And Boris Johnson, I had dinner with Boris Johnson as the prize, and he
My
gave me on
goodness.
this office. Yeah. And but it all just, it really did. The early days, it,
The universe was definitely on your
oh,
side, wasn't it?
yes. I remember trying to get a book deal, and I did send the manuscript off to a few, and everyone said no, apart from this the publisher. He was a Christian publisher, and then he was starting to go into spiritual new age books, and so I was one of the first authors of this new genre. And yeah, and so it did all. I was just following the universe. Yeah, yeah.
That's fantastic.
In fact, that's
And
what
so,
I've done all along, really.
yeah, I mean, I am with you. That's my philosophy in life. I just manifest it. I have a vision board, just like you said. I've never really said this on this podcast, but I just think actually, if it's meant to be, it'll be. Like this podcast, it just kind of happens, and
Yeah,
there's always people to fill it, and I just don't know how it happens, and the honor of that, and those conversations like this we have, and yeah, I just think, well, this is where the universe is telling me we need to be, so we'll just go with it and see where it ends up.
absolutely. I think it's the best way. And and now, having done Relaxed Kids for a long time, now I feel I'm in a new phase of working with women, working with adults. And I live near a retreat center, and I offer my time for the retreats, and I do workshops, and often it's play, and I do stand-up comedy, and it's playing, doing games with them, just having that entertaining. So they're on a spiritual, quiet retreat, but the way to bring that sense of fun and enjoyment as part of their whole experience, I think is really important. So
That's
I love how we can develop and grow, and we don't have to stick with one thing. And
right.
now I'm now doing like little mini retreats as well, in my studio, and I do online workshops and all things to support adults now.
Okay. Can I just, before we just do the adults for a minute, that I just do have a little more question about the children, really.
Yeah,
Obviously, Julie and I work with children who've experienced early life adversity. Often they've had separation and loss and maybe experienced trauma. And often they can be quite fizzy and not quite sure about their body, or maybe things have happened to their body that shouldn't have happened. How does this program, or does this program kind of fit for them as well as typically developing children? Because obviously there's more hyper awareness, there can be more hyper vigilance. So lying on the floor and closing your eyes actually can be quite scary if you've experienced trauma or abuse, can't it?
yeah. I mean, it's more when I set up Relax Kids and these classes, because I haven't come from a theoretical background, I haven't come from the education or the social services background. I wasn't probably even aware of issues or types of children and all the, the neurodiversity that we have now. But I have had hundreds and thousands of teachers and my coaches work with children on every spectrum, every scale, and just go, wow, this works. So I'm not sure what it is about this method of using these 7 steps. I think it's because part of me wants to say it's almost because I created it directly for the children without all the theoretical stuff that
Mm-mm.
gets in the way. It's just, it's almost like if how do I say it? I want to say this, but it's going to sound funny. If a clown, a lovely clown, not a scary clown, if a clown created something for children, this is what a clown would create. Does that make sense? I've
Yeah.
never said that before because I've never thought of it that way. But it's sort of like it is literally from it, it's very pure hearted, let's say. And I
Yes.
think the pure heartedness of what it is and the simplicity that makes it so special and so doable. Like, I remember going into one school and there was a child there with quite extreme autism and who had a teaching assistant there. And she went, "Look, he's not going to get this. We'll go out." I said, "Okay, no problem." And he just got it. He was there in this magical world, and she couldn't believe it. He was still, he was like, he never lies down. And then I have people who've worked, there are schools with very, I can never remember how to say it, children with autism where they're very, not high functioning, it's the opposite of high functioning.
Yeah, where special educational needs and
That's
things
it.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In wheelchairs, can hardly move, etc. And one of my coaches who trained, I think 15 years ago, she did it just for her class. She trained on her own back just for her class. Her head teacher, she had such incredible results that her head teacher wanted her to go round every class and just do Relax Kids. So I
Okay.
have now Relax Kids coaches who are employed by the school just to do Relax Kids.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And how long so do you go through the 7 steps each session?
Yeah, yeah, always, always.
So
Whether it's
and so
10
you could
minutes,
do it
20,
every day or once a week or
every day. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Ideally, ultimately would be every day, just even like a few minutes, but definitely once a week. Yeah.
Okay. And how yeah, that was my next question is just for practitioners thinking actually this might fit. How long do you need to take out of a day? Is it, to go through those 7 steps? How long?
10, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes,
Okay. So
2
it's not
hours.
like a half a day where
No,
it's just
no
okay.
school. No, no, no.
So
Yeah.
you could do it, before they started their phonics or, before they, inform time in high school before they kind of went on to the day. That would be enough time.
Yes.
Okay. And if you were a therapist, you could kind of incorporate it as part of that and
That's
still kind of do the therapy around it.
That's what a lot of coaches do, or therapists who do one-to-one, maybe drawing and talking, sound play, and they'll almost structure their Relax Kids class and meld it with the therapy,
Yeah.
and they're talking through it, but the children just think they're just having a lovely time doing Relax
Right.
Kids. Yeah.
And can you use the books without doing the 7 steps? Can you just
Can.
use
It's
the
not
books?
as good, but yes, of course you can.
Okay.
And many, many people have, whether they're therapists or teachers, children at bedtime. I think my ultimate dream for a child would be to be doing it in school with the teacher doing little brain breaks during the day. And then once a week having a relaxed kids class where you're focused on the 7 steps, and then every night doing something with parents. That, and the children that do that, who are lucky enough to have parents who maybe are coaches or have bought the books, and the some schools take it on as a whole school approach, and they even have a nurture room that's their relaxed kids room, and the children who do that, they really transform. There was our pilot in 2006 to 9, so it's a long time ago now. There was Sylvester School in Knowsley. They reduced their exclusions from 19 to 0 in 3 years. You
Wow.
Relax Kids
That's
whole
amazing.
school approach with a nurture room, and as a result, that borough, Knowsley, wanted Relax Kids trained in all 57 schools. They wanted,
Goodness
yeah,
gracious. That's amazing. So I will put your website and
yeah.
and all those things at the end of this. So just as we end, just tell me a little bit more about the adults. I know you started, but I
Oh,
just
yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
finish the kids.
Oh, yes,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, so what do I do? Yeah, I just feel adults need this too now.
yeah,
We
yeah.
need time to stop. And for those people who are in Oxford or nearby, I run mini retreats, and it's all about the feeling cozy, connecting, hot soup, fire, all the gorgeous things in life, and taking time out to be with mainly women. Well, it is women. And I also do art journaling and movement and an online sessions too. Yeah.
Okay. And can people find all this on your website? So if they go onto your
Yeah.
website, is there
For the adult thing, it won't be on my website. You can find me on Facebook. If you
Facebook?
Yeah, if you look up Marneta Viegas on Facebook, you will find me there, and I can have a
Okay.
chat to you about and invite you to my group.
Okay. So we'll put some links at the end of in the write-up and in the comments so people can find you. Thank you so much,
Oh, thank you.
Moinetta. This has just been such an interesting conversation. I've learned so much today. Yeah, so thank you so much for your time, and I'm sure there's so many people are going to have, yeah,
Yeah,
just really go and find all these books and these things because I definitely I'm going to have a look at them.
good. And clowns aren't scary. Not all
Well,
clowns.
well,
No,
maybe not all
all
clowns.
clowns. Yeah, no, my name was Magical Nettie, and funnily enough, I've still got that name as my email because it's still
Oh,
stuck 25 years.
oh, that's lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time. That's amazing.
Pleasure. Thank you.